Okay. Okay, welcome to our Liberty in the Golden State Candidates Forum. So we have Mike Allman and Angela McArdle and Reiser here for our debate. So first of all, we'd like to thank Francis Chicago Pizza for giving us the venue space, and then also for our audience for being here tonight. So my first question is, why sort of run on the Liberty platform? What do you guys see as the biggest strengths of each of your campaigns against sort of the traditional confines of either the Republican or the Democratic Party? And then, is California and the United States in general, as you guys are running for Congress, are they both ready for sort of moving beyond those party bases in terms of just hardline party politics? So I guess we can start with you. Do you want to start with Mike?
Sure, I'll start. So, Mike Allman here. I'm running for California 52nd District. It's in San Diego, downtown in North San Diego County. So, I'm running on a platform of direct democracy, which means I'm going to vote the way that the people tell me to vote when I get to Congress. And the reason that's great for Liberty is the 52nd District here in San Diego is a split district. 1/3 of the voters are registered as Democrats, 1/3 of the voters are registered as Republicans, and 1/3 are no party preference. It's a classic, not a red district or a blue district, it's a classic purple district. Most of those people are libertarians, they just don't know it yet. They grew up in a two-party system. Some of them look at the vertical column of columns of Democrat and Republican, and horizontal issues, and they sit back and say, you know what, I'm a Democrat, I guess, I don't like these things over here. Other people say, well, I'm a Republican, I guess, but I don't like these things over here. My direct democracy platform allows them to vote issue by issue. So if the district leans left on social issues and leans right on fiscal issues, then that's the way I'll vote in Congress, independent of the party. So it's an opportunity to essentially elect a libertarian platform without electing someone from the Libertarian Party.
Can you repeat your question?
Yes. So, do you guys think that sort of the national platform and the California sort of platform is ready to move on just basic party politics? Are we ready for more of a liberty non-centric?
So we have a fire.
We're going to wait a few seconds for this fire truck to pass.
California and the nation as a whole is ready to move on past the two-party system and embrace liberty in some respects?
Yeah, we've interviewed candidates who are part of the two parties but aren't necessarily part of the, I guess, base of the party. They're
the establishment
more
rhetoric.
Contrarians.
Yeah, I think that right now is the perfect time. I think the country is absolutely fed up and disillusioned with status quo two-party politics. I think you've seen a tremendous revival in constitutional Republicans, liberty-minded people who are just really sick and tired of the same identity politics and pandering to causes that don't actually further our liberties. They don't get us into a better position economically. They don't grow our personal freedoms. I think the time is now. And the Libertarian Party and even the Green Party saw growth in the last 2016 presidential election. I think people are ready to embrace actual change and movement in our political system.
Brandon Reiser here from the 48th Congressional District. I'm also from a district that is, in the middle of transformation right now. So the 48th District was very much a historically red Republican district. In 2016, Hillary actually won that district by 1 percentage point. 5.9% of the votes in that district also went to a third party, primarily to Gary Johnson, but also a little bit to Jill Stein. So when I look at what the people are craving, when I talk to constituents and I understand what they're looking for fresh perspective, they're looking for limited government, they're looking for personal and economic freedom, and quite frankly, they're just looking for common sense solutions that everyone can get behind. So when I talk to them about ideas that I'm running on, particularly ending the 17-year-old war in Afghanistan, getting government out of the student loan business, These are ideas that are landing very well with people, and they're resonating with constituents all over the district. And increasingly, folks are finding themselves disengaged with the bombastic Trump behavior. They're finding themselves disengaged with the Republican obstructionist way of doing business. At this point, the Democrat Party is really not a platform that stands for anything. So even Democrats are just looking around and they're like, why are we running on? Why are we getting behind these individuals? So people are just looking for something new, and that's where I feel like a third party is a tremendous opportunity. And I feel like 2018 is the right time to make it happen.
Yeah. Okay, so my next question is, why did you guys decide to run for office? What was sort of that first fire, or the first sort of step? Why did you guys decide to go into this path, just doing your normal careers, day-to-day lives? What started the whole story?
Yeah. Maybe
We'll reverse the order.
Yeah, we'll reverse it. We'll just go back and forth, I suppose. For me, as someone that was involved on the periphery of politics, as someone who was involved in the local party, I constantly found myself fed up with the way that the two old parties operate, and quite frankly, I believe that if you want to change something, you need to be the person to get out there and make that change happen. So, ultimately it really came down to, do I want to take action on my beliefs? Do I want to get out there and listen to constituents and deliver solutions that we can all get behind? And at the end of the day, when I looked in the mirror, I answered yes to those questions, and I knew that I had to get out there and do something. I'll also say that the Libertarian Party leadership is doing a fantastic job trying to get people into races. So I went to one particularly inspiring event that you spoke at, as well as the chairman of our party, and the call to action was run for office. So a culmination of those things really led to, you got to get in there and you got to throw your name in the ring.
I live in the 34th district. That's where I'm running. It is downtown LA, parts of East LA, Boyle Heights, Highland Park, Cypress, Eagle Rock. The 34th district is one of the most impoverished districts in the country. And I do actually a lot of work in the 34th district as an eviction defense and legal document assistant paralegal. And I was really inspired to run because I am so frustrated with the socialist snake oil that is being sold to the low-income people in my district, and all of these lies that are perpetuated and fed to them, saying, if only you'll trust in socialism, if you'll trust in big government, we'll get you out of poverty. It's a lie, and it infuriates me. And I want to see low-income people, middle-class people, upper-class people, everyone benefit from economic freedom, from the abolishment of obnoxious regulatory burdens. I want to see business come into my district, employ people who are low income, employ people who don't have higher education and who can't afford it. I want to see everyone rise up and do better in their lives, and also have personal freedom and protect their constitutional rights too, because the Constitution affirms your natural rights. It's not just a piece of paper. It's really important. And those are the things that have inspired me to run in 2018. I also ran in 2017 in a special election. I was really motivated at that time to run for the same reasons, but also because of the homelessness crisis that started in LA, downtown LA, and has really spilled over into my district.
So the spark for me was the realization that we've somehow gotten into this position of excessive partisanship in Washington. Somehow people of the Congress has lost what the word representative means. They don't represent the people anymore. They vote with the party almost all the time, and that's true of both parties, Democrat and the Republican parties. They basically vote the party line on almost every issue, but that's not where people really are. They tend to be all over the map on one side of issue and on the other side of other issues. But it's just gotten too partisan. Take just one example, the tax bill in the Senate. There are 12 states in our union where there's one Democratic senator and one Republican senator in the state. In every case, the Democrat voted against the tax bill and the Republican voted for it. My question is, which one of those two people aren't listening to their constituents? It's become way too partisan, and I think my platform of direct democracy where you listen to the people and you vote with them on an issue-by-issue basis can really change Washington is an idea that I couldn't leave behind. When I had it and started working on it, I can't imagine not following up on it. So that's why I'm running for Congress.
And my next question is for just the two libertarians, I guess, in the room. Where do you guys see the future of the Libertarian Party, the dominant third party? Where do you guys see it heading in terms of just, I guess, voter base, in terms of reaching out? I know I always say to people the Libertarian Party is one of the biggest PR problems of any of the major sort of third parties. I mean, how do we sort of reach out and become, I guess, legitimate in that way, and really reach out to sort of a more legitimate, voter market? I guess we can start with you. Yeah.
Excellent. So let's start just purely thinking about the numbers. By the numbers, the party is growing. By the numbers, Gary Johnson in 2016 significantly exceeded his performance in 2012. So this is all great news, and the trend is pointed in the right direction. With any organization, you're going to go through some growing pains, which I think we're experiencing a little bit right now. And as we evolve through these growing pains, and as the Libertarian Party starts to take on identity, starts to take on structure, not just at the national level, but also at the state and local levels, I think that we've got tremendous opportunity in front of us. For me, I think the biggest opportunity is going to be for the Libertarian Party to target specific places across the country that are hotbeds of libertarianism, if you will. I would like to think that the district I'm running in the 40th district in Orange County, being the home of the Libertarian Party, being a place that historically has been, I think, somewhat favorable to libertarians. I think it's a great opportunity for us to build that up, to then tout that success and go out to other places and really prove that here's a model that's worked from a grassroots organization perspective, from the perspective of getting people elected to office, and then from there I think it's sky's the limit.
Okay.
Let me tell you, I have so much to say about this issue. It is really near and dear to my heart. I believe that the Libertarian Party is absolutely going through some growing pains right now, but we are on our way to growing exponentially. We are making some great choices, and we have a wonderful opportunity ahead of us at the next convention where we can elect new leadership. I am eternally grateful for all the progress that the Gary Johnson campaign made in 2016, and I want to see us do even better in 2020. I'm a big supporter of Josh Smith's campaign for LNC chair on the national level. In California, Ted Brown has done an amazing job as the chair, getting people to run for candidacy. Mimi Robson will most likely be running to take his place since Ted has moved out of state. She has worked as secretary now for a little bit less than a year and has turned our party around with its organizational skills and responsiveness and getting registered voters into databases, contacting people, mobilizing people, getting things just really happening. Personally, I'm also the chair for the Pasadena Libertarian Party. I've been in chair now for a little over a month. So my job has been to reevaluate where we're at. What are we doing? We have dinner clubs. That's cool. Let's get people rallying as precinct captains. Let's mobilize our voter base. Let's reach out to them. Let's grow the party. Let's start by getting people who are registered libertarians to actually go out and vote. Because I got to tell you, when I ran in 2017, I was dismayed to see that a lot of libertarians didn't show up to the polls, and they're disillusioned. But that's okay, because it's our opportunity and our obligation to re-engage them, draw them back in, and get them excited about it. And there are a lot of wonderful opportunities coming up for us. I'm really excited about participating in it on a local, state, and national level. And I hope more people will get involved too. Go to the convention, vote, get active in your state party, get active locally, attend things, get literature, pass it out, and be a fun, cool libertarian that people want to hang out with. People will listen to you.
Now, Mike, don't worry. I didn't want to forget about the Republicans either.
Okay.
So I guess I have the same question. What do you see the future of the Republican Party? Reagan's party, the party for free markets, sort of small government. I mean, you sort of see them pandering more to social conservative issues right now, especially in the Trump administration. So sort of how do you see them placing themselves in the coming years for younger generations?
Yeah, well, there's some challenges that the party has ahead of it, not the least of which are the midterm elections coming up later this year. Right now they hold the 24-seat majority in the House of Representatives, but it's going to be difficult to retain that majority. Right now the consensus is that it's likely that the Democrats, as energized as they are, will take the House. I think that is an issue for Republicans, and maybe is hopefully a wake-up call that the party does need some fundamental change. And my hope is that we can change it from within, that the Republicans will be able to hold the House, and that we can modify the party to be more attractive, particularly, as you say, Chad, to the younger generation, to the millennials, if you will, who've grown up in a very different world than many of the Republican rank and file have, where things like Facebook streaming and live streaming and cell phones and instant information give them a completely different perspective on life. They have different values that are fundamentally, I think, Republican. Things like free market capitalism, individual liberty, and limited government and peace. That's something that not only libertarians, but millennials and its core values to the Republican Party as well. So I think they will have to morph. The immediate challenge is how to not lose the House of Representatives.
Okay. So my next question is just about, I guess, the Liberty platform in general. I mean, what do you guys see as the advantages to the Liberty platform? I mean, compared to obviously the hard social conservative and big government Democrats. I mean, we know that Republicans tend to toe the party line on sort of social issues. However, in California, I mean, that seems to be at odds with how the general voter population is going. But at the same time, we see a lot of public denouncements of big government sort of in the grassroots level, especially with the new gas tax and the bullet train to nowhere. So I guess, how do you guys see more of the Liberty platform, even if it's either in the Libertarian Party or like the Liberty Republicans? Sort of, how is that superior to sort of what everyone else is offering in the voter marketplace right now? I guess we start.
Yeah, you know, it has tremendous appeal to folks when you can relate this to their real life situation. So when you talk about liberty, when you talk about personal freedom, when you talk about economic freedom, when you talk about limited government, those things philosophically don't necessarily land as well as giving them a real world situation for what it looks like to have limited government, for what it looks like for you to have more personal freedom. So I think that the more that we can spread this message and make it human, make it personal to folks, that's where we're going to have a tremendous amount of success. And you know, there's no arguing with that. When you talk to someone about their ability to live their life the way that they want, or their ability to operate a business without the heavy hand of government and unnecessary regulations, when you talk to them about these real world situations and you connect with them one-on-one, that's something that they can't say no to. You can't argue with them.
How do you get we should wait. Welcome to USC, that's all I can say.
It's a beautiful night in Southern California. We thought it would be great
right
to do it outside.
In downtown Los Angeles.
Okay, so what are the advantages of the Liberty platform as opposed to the big government or socialist platform?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, I think this is actually really easy. All you got to do is just see where socialism and big government have gotten you. It's more expensive, it's cumbersome, it's burdensome, it limits your options. When you look at liberty and free market solutions, let's say look at healthcare and the things that have been regulated the least, like laser eye surgery, plastic surgery. Those things are so much more affordable and accessible than major surgeries. It's because there's less government regulation, less burden. Anytime you have a liberty choice, it's going to be easier, it's going to be cheaper, and it's going to be empowering. We just need to do a better job of marketing it. The evidence is there. We just need to spread the message a little bit. It's really no contest.
So I think people are starting to get that message now, that liberty is a winning platform. The issue I think that they've had is there hasn't been candidates that are running for office who really truly reflect liberty. As I mentioned, the liberty sort of splits on both sides of the party. It tends to be economically conservatives and liberties tends to be with the Republicans, and the individual liberty tends to be with the Democrats. So what we need is some form ultimately of a third party. Problem is that the two-party system is extremely entrenched, and it's going to be difficult for any third party to get elected. It's just almost impossible to be elected. So I think an opportunity of mine, where I'm looking at direct democracy, where I'll represent the people, is a way to, within the system, allow for independent views, issue by issue, to be reflected without having to completely upset the apple cart. And what I'm learning through my polling and as I'm out talking to people in the district is the message is really hitting home. 85% of the people that I talk to are accepting saying things like, why isn't this the way it's supposed to work? Why hasn't this already been done? I thought this is the way it does work, that the representatives are supposed to represent the people. So I'm bullish in the libertarian platform. I think it's just going to have to work within the system.
Yeah. Okay, my next question has to do with the housing crisis in California. So I am a real estate development student here at USC, so this obviously is sort of an important topic for me. And we've seen sort of national involvement, we've seen statewide involvement. How do you see sort of a liberty platform, more of a laissez-faire type of economic system being able to solve that problem? I mean, especially coming from California, I'm sure you guys have thought of this. And we have our own California State Senate candidate also.
I'm running for Congress.
Oh, you're running for Congress?
Yeah, I'm one of those guys.
Okay, well, yeah, so you would also sort of know about this issue as well. So what are sort of your thoughts on how a liberty platform could help solve that housing crisis? We can start here.
Okay,
Yeah.
excellent. So I'm very much an advocate of letting the market dictate the cost of living, the cost of housing. But when I look at the regulatory environment that we see today, and there's a crackdown on all of these innovative ways that we can reduce the cost of housing, particularly when you think about the role that technology plays with the emergence of Airbnb and VRBO are perhaps a bit more short-term housing. But if you think about a solution like that of shared housing, regulatory environment might limit that today. But in a future state where technology can connect people and you could have more opportunities for people to have access to affordable housing, that's certainly going to address folks that can't afford to live within the confines that exist today. But certainly, I'm an advocate that the market should dictate what the cost of housing is.
Well, okay. I have so much to say on this. I work as an eviction defense paralegal, and I am the last barrier for so many low-income people from having a house to becoming homeless. Affordable housing is something I deal with every single day, and I also do a lot of wrongful foreclosure defense as well. Government is always at the root of the problem. As congressional candidates, there's not a lot that we can do on a local and state level except use our influence. Legislation-wise, we really need to get the Federal Reserve under control. When they manipulate interest rates, it causes people to purchase homes that they cannot afford. They eventually lose their homes. They get pushed into apartments they can't afford. Then they're fighting to keep in the apartments, to stay in their apartments. They're living in their cars. Local governments want to pass laws, just like the city of Los Angeles did, to make it illegal to sleep in your car. It's very difficult. Best thing that we can do on a local level to fight against this is to get corporatism and zoning regulations out of our city government. Our city government in Los Angeles loves to benefit special interest developers. They take their money, there's kickbacks. All this stuff that happens on a federal level happens on a local level too. So don't be fooled into thinking that just because it's a city government, it's not as corrupt as national. Yes, it is. There are cities nearby like El Monte that will straight up throw a landlord in jail if he rents to someone without proper zoning and permits. They don't care about you. They don't care that you're going to be homeless. They would rather you be homeless than rent for $200 a month someone's garage where you're perfectly cozy and safe, because that garage is not permitted for human habitability. So please understand, affordable housing, we absolutely need it. I absolutely am a strong proponent of it. Our government is not providing it. We need to get government out of housing.
I don't think I could have said that better, Angela. The government is the root of the problem when it comes to the housing crisis. If we were to remove the regulations, many of which you mentioned, but also I can give you firsthand knowledge. I'm building a house now on a plot of land inside the middle of a subdivision. The amount, I've had firsthand experience in the amount of regulation that I've had to go through. Literally, the county asked me to build a water treatment plant on a half-an-acre plot. It's crazy, and so it adds to the cost if government were to get out of that business and let people, get the work done and let the market decide the price. It's way over-regulated, but it is a local issue. So people who get upset about this need to complain to zoning boards and land regulation and city councils. There is some signaling we can do from Washington, D.C., but there's no doubt this is a classic example of government being part of the problem, not part of the solution.
And Rick Doss, do you have anything that you'd like to say on this issue? Or
Well, I'm going to be at the federal level, so much like
Yeah.
my good friends over here. Hi, I'm Rick Doss, and I'm running for Congress in the 30th District of California. I feel like government regulation at the housing level is a major issue, and it's going to continue to get worse. They've touched on the major talking points that I would have very well, by the way. But I think a big part of California would be getting it under control at the state level. Right now, as a business owner, this year I received a tax cut, and I'm able to make 3 extra hires this year, which is a good thing. But already California is talking about increasing state taxes, which would prevent me from doing so. So in my honest opinion, the housing crisis is twofold. It's A, overregulation, which is a government problem, but B, regulations on the businesses that would gladly, I'm one of them use extra money to hire people, which would actually improve and benefit their lives. So there's my answer. I had to cover it.
Perfect. Okay, so my next questions are more specific to your individual campaigns, and I'll start with you, Brandon. So Orange County has historically been known to bleed red. It's sort of been as a Republican stronghold. In this last election cycle, for the first time since the Great Depression, on a presidential level, it went blue. So do you start to see sort of the Orange County, environment turning more socially liberal? I mean, we know it's a very big stronghold for sort of good business practice. There's a lot of very thriving successful businesses in Irvine, Brea, North County, Central County. Where do you see Orange County sort of heading in the future politically, and how does the Libertarian Party sort of fit into that puzzle?
I truly believe the 48th district where I'm running is a ripe opportunity for the Libertarian Party, and I can tell you why. So one number I like to throw out there as well when talking about the 2016 presidential results is 5.9% of the vote in the 2016 presidential election also went third party. So nearly 6%. That's a pretty good indicator that people didn't like either of the two options. And what I found through personal experience is that this historically red district is evolving, and it's very much a generational thing. So if you talk to a lifelong Republican who's been voting for Dana Rohrabacher for 25, 30 years, they're still a lifelong Republican that's voting for Dana Rohrabacher. But when you look at particularly the younger generation, there is a huge amount of dissatisfaction with the two old parties. So that's where reaching out to younger folks and connecting with them with a message that resonates with their personal situation is something that we're having a huge amount of success with. I genuinely feel like for the success of my campaign, as well as for the success of the Libertarian Party of Orange County, it's very much going to depend on getting young voters to register and to turn out and vote Libertarian. So that's very much a focus of ours right now.
Okay. And then for Angela, I know, so your district, the California 34th, it's a heavily blue district. I mean, it's been that way historically. And when third-party candidates have run, they've sort of gotten, mediocre to little results. How do you see just overcoming, like all LA, sort of the Democratic Party stronghold in your district? What's sort of your tactics and your plans?
Okay, so one of the things that's really interesting in my district is absolutely, it was 65% voted for Hillary Clinton in 2016. As of yet, I don't believe a Republican candidate has declared in mine, unless they declare today. They took their papers today.
Yeah, who knows? Yeah.
So one of the things I'm hoping for is that we don't actually have a Republican run, and that I'm able to sweep up some conservative votes and educate conservative voters about how a libertarian solution is better than the neocon policies that most of the Republicans in my district have historically voted for. Robert Leon ran as a Democrat last time. I believe he's run as a Republican before. He was for nationalized health care. The other guy who ran last time, whose name escapes me all of a sudden, he talked about nothing but Social Security his whole campaign. The Republican Party, what's left of it in my district, and there is a strong conservative base, I believe, in parts of downtown LA and parts of Boyle Heights, actually. They need to be turned on to liberty, and that's what I'm really working on right now. Let go of party loyalty when the people representing you don't even represent your party. They don't represent economic freedom. They don't represent liberty. And the other thing is that there are a lot of disenfranchised, disillusioned Democrats in my district. A lot of people who were hardcore progressives and felt really burned by Jimmy Gomez winning. They were not for him. He was an establishment Democratic candidate. So I'm hoping to win some of their votes too. And the best way to do it is to do what I've been doing. Knock on doors, have face-to-face conversations with people, answer all of their questions, and be accessible.
And then for Michael, I mean, you sort of explained to me, we met at a Cato conference back in the summer, that you're running on sort of this platform of direct democracy. You want to sort of have it so that each voter in your district can reach out to you personally, and you'll just sort of go with whatever the majority says. I know sort of as liberty-leaning people, we're afraid of mob majority, mob rule, rule of the just popular vote. How do you feel getting away from those fears, and how do you feel moving beyond those as sort of a liberty-leaning Republican?
Yeah, okay, so that is a question I get often. What happens with the tyranny of the mob when a majority takes over? We really just have a few choices. We can have majority rule or minority rule. I don't think many people want to have elected elites and minorities deciding how we should live our lives. So we live in a majority rule country, but we have protections built in the Constitution. That's what the Bill of Rights and other laws that we have are in place to avoid and stop the mob rule that might happen. And I don't think it's really practical. In order for me to vote with the people, I'm going to need engagement. So if I get a substantial amount of engagement from my constituents, then they're going to be, by definition, a middle solution. The radical sides who are on far right or far left on any issue are unlikely to carry the day with the majority of the people. So I think theoretically people are concerned with tyranny of the mob. I don't think it's a practical issue, and it's certainly not one that's going to affect my constituency.
And then maybe just going off your platform as well, you sort of explained to me how you're a little bit different of Republican from your Republican counterpoints who are in sort of your same district. Would you explain to me how you're trying to market yourself so that you have a higher advantage in terms of the Republican field in your district?
Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, the district is 1/3 Republican, 1/3 Democrat, and 1/3 no party or Libertarian or minor parties. So the reality is that I think when we get to a Democrat versus a Republican in the general election in November, that most of the Republicans, 90+%, are going to vote for the Republican. 90% of the Democrats or more are going to vote for the Democrat. What happens to the 1/3 who don't align with one of the two major parties? That's what's going to swing the election. I think my platform of being an independent, moderate, go with the people through a direct democracy platform, that is one that's going to attract a lot of the middle independent voters who are, as you say, disillusioned with some of the aspects of the major party. So for the first time, someone who is fiscally conservative and liberty-minded, yet also socially tolerant, can land on a candidate where their views can be represented. So I think I have a very good chance of grabbing the middle, and that's what's going to win for me.
Okay. So Trojans for Liberty is part of the national network known as Young Americans for Liberty, and the president of Young Americans for Liberty is Cliff Maloney, and his sort of statement is always "Make liberty win." So I guess my last question I have to you guys is, how do we make liberty win? How do we sort of get boots on the ground? How do we place ourselves as sort of liberty-minded political candidates? Sorry.
Well, I think there's structurally two ways that you can do it. For me, me, the right path was to leave the Republican Party, join the Libertarian Party, and focus on spreading the message of the Libertarian Party, building the number of registered libertarians. I'm going to be the first Libertarian elected to the House of Representatives. So for me, that is the path towards building liberty, if you will.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm going to be answering on behalf of my colleague here, because the other option is that you act within the Republican Party and you attempt to transform the Republican Party. For me, that was personally a non-starter. I fundamentally just did not align with the Republican Party on a few key issues, and that for me was the breaking point where I had to find a party that is very much aligned with my beliefs of personal and economic freedom, limited government, and allowing people to live their life the way that they want to live their life.
How do we make liberty win? Well, we need to run good candidates, and we need to run a lot of them. We need to improve our marketing and our messaging, which I really hope is going to be happening in 2018, especially at our national convention for the Libertarian Party. I think the Republicans have actually done a little bit of a better job in doing with getting their marketing and their message a little bit better. They certainly meme better than the left, and that seems to count for quite a lot lately. So, actually, good job, Republicans, on that. If we could just end your foreign wars and drone bombings and pandering to nationalized healthcare, we're on the right track. The other thing we need to do is we need to win hearts and minds, and we need to be personable and approachable when we talk about this face-to-face. And we also need to focus not just on candidates, but on issues, referendums, other ballot initiatives, things that you vote on that aren't necessarily candidates. We need to make liberty win all across the board, not just with elected representatives, but also with policies on a national, state, and local level. That's how I think we can make liberty win.
And I think I have it a little easier than both of you because of my constituency. That they, as I said, they're often lean libertarian. They just don't know it right now. That they've been stuck in the two-party system, and my polling does show that they have become disillusioned with just being able to pick one of the two major parties. If they could, so here's my prediction. My direct democracy platform, where I'm asking the voters of my district to vote on an issue-by-issue basis. When I find where they are on, say, the top 10 issues of the day, and then I match them against the various parties, my guess is they're going to line up closer to the Libertarian platform than either the Democrats or the Republicans. So I think that's where liberty will really happen, is that I'll be in Congress voting the way the people want me to vote on an issue-by-issue basis, and that's going to have very much of a flavor of a limited government, a freedom, and, as you say, less wars, less interventionist policy, and socially liberal. That is where the constituency lies, and that's how we can further the cause of freedom.
Okay, well, those are all of my, I guess, pre-formed questions. If you guys have any closing statements to bring us into the end of the night, that would be great. Yeah, we can start.
Yeah, I'll close by just talking about the opportunity in the 48th Congressional District. As I previously mentioned, 5.9% of the vote had gone third party. In the 2018 primary race that's less than 4 months away now, you've got myself, who will be a Libertarian on the ballot, endorsed by the California Libertarian Party. You also have 8 Democrats that are going to be on the ballot, 1 Republican incumbent, and maybe a couple of other non-credible Republicans. So for those of you that are familiar with the top 2 system in California, the dynamic of this race in particular shapes up incredibly well for a Libertarian to get into top 2 versus an out-of-touch Republican. The Republican that I'm running against recently had a poll come out that showed that 44% of the likely voters in the 40th Congressional District are strongly inclined to not re-elect him. So the clear opportunity here is Democrats split the vote. I can perhaps get 12 to 15% of the primary vote, get into a top 2 race versus Rohrabacher, who has 44% of likely voters not likely to re-elect him. So in that scenario, I'm getting all the Democrat votes, getting all the Libertarian votes, of course, getting a lot of the independent votes, shave off some of the disenfranchised Republican votes, and I think we'd probably have a pretty easy walk in the general election. And that's where I've just got a ton of optimism that I am going to be the first libertarian to be elected to the House of Representatives.
Closing comments. My name is Angela McArdle. Again, I'm running in California's 34th district. Please, if you live in the 34th district, go out and vote Libertarian on June 5th. And I don't believe I've actually had a chance to share a little bit about my platform yet. The things that I want to see happen is that I want to get integrity back into politics. I don't believe we've had any integrity in politics since the 80s. I mean the 1780s. We really need to get rid of 20,000 long pages worth of meaningless, status garbage that our representatives are forced to vote on with only 20 minutes to read, with hidden agendas buried in the middle of it. We need to have transparency and fairness in our legislative policy. We need to get corporatism out. I really want to protect our constitutional rights, because the Constitution affirms our natural rights. It's not just a meaningless piece of paper. It's meant to preserve our liberties. And I really want to bring back affordable living by getting rid of oppressive taxation and regulatory burdens. I think that these are things that all people want. We just need to educate our voter base more, and we need to motivate people to get out and vote. And lastly, if you're interested in running for any office in California, nomination period begins this coming Monday. Go to the county recorder's office, pull your papers. If you're motivated, you're on the fence, you're not sure, go and vote, go run so people can vote for you. You still have a month to raise money for your filing fees if you're unsure about it. Do it for our country.
People the voters are frustrated with what we have in Washington, D.C. today. They're frustrated at the excessive partisanship in our two-party system, where everybody votes with the party on nearly every issue. People want change. People want something different. People want their representatives to truly represent their district. That's what I'm going to do in California 52nd District. My name is Mike Allman. I hope you'll vote for me in California 52 to bring direct democracy and truly listen to the people to Congress.
All right, well, I'd like to thank our panelists for being here tonight. I'd like to thank our audience for also being here tonight, and then obviously our online audience as well. So yeah, thank you very much. That's, I guess, completes our panel.